Hello, everybody. Welcome to Math Lesson 2.4, Multiplication Clusters. All right, now I want to warn you up front. This lesson might seem like I'm throwing a lot of different things at you at one time, but it's really not as complicated as it seems because what I'm trying to show you is multiple ways to solve a problem. What you need to focus on is whichever way works best for you. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you a bunch of different ways. If you say, oh my goodness, I only tracked one of those, that's fine. Just use that one. Okay, so try not to get overwhelmed with how much I'm going to be doing when we're going over these problems, because you're only going to need to use whatever strategy is working best for you. You don't have to do everything I'm doing when you're solving these problems using clusters. Okay, so with that said, clusters, what we're doing here is basically we're just showing different ways to use the break apart model, which we've already been talking about this week. And we're just taking numbers that we are already familiar with, breaking them apart into smaller chunks so they're more manageable and so that we can multiply faster and more efficiently. Okay, that's even our objective for today, is we will break multiplication problems apart more efficiently. Okay, so you're looking for clusters that you recognize quicker. Okay, so if you tend to find groups of 10 quicker, great. You can look for clusters of 10. If you tend to break apart 10s and 1s quicker, you can do that. Okay, as we're going through, I'm going to show you several different ways that you can cluster the same type of problem, and you can start thinking about, okay, which one of those works best for me? And which one can I employ so that I can solve these multiplication clusters or multiplication problems a little bit faster? And we're just trying to use our time efficiently. So we're not wasting time solving out a problem when we could solve it faster in our head using one of these strategies. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our first problem. Okay, I'm going to try and do my best to organize this because sometimes it can get a little messy just because I am trying to do so many things at one time. So let's start with this one, 28 times 12. All right, so when I am doing this problem, what I'm actually doing, as we've been talking about all week, is I am doing 20 times 10. Oh, that's not a very good arrow, sorry. And 20 times 2. And I'm also doing 8 times 10 and 8 times 2. Okay, so if I drew all of those out, that would be 20 times 10, that's here and here. And then 20 times 2, that's the 20 and this 2. Then 8 times 10 and 8 times 2. Okay, now this is our break apart model, right? We're breaking apart all of the pieces of both of these numbers. We're breaking both of them into 10s and 1s, and we're going to solve each one. Okay, now that's perfectly fine. If you are comfortable with this, with the break apart model, great. Keep using it. Okay, if that makes sense to you and you feel like that's the best way for you to solve these problems, is just to break it into all the pieces each time, that is totally fine. Okay, that is for you to use. However, if you're thinking, you know what, that takes a lot of writing, that takes me a little bit too long to solve one of those problems by writing all those pieces apart, well, that's why we have strategies like clusters. Okay, clusters is just a different way of grouping these numbers so that you can solve them a little bit faster. Okay, you're using facts you already know and shortcuts you already know and things like that so that you can solve this problem a little more efficiently. Okay, so let's go over a couple of examples. Actually, I'm gonna label my work as I'm going just to make sure that I'm gonna use a different color, sorry. Just to make sure that I can track my work later. So this is the break apart model. Okay, let's try a different model using the same problem, 28 times 12. Okay, so what I'm going to do first, I'm going to do, well, I know 28 when I'm doing 28 times 12, I'm going to start with just 28, and I'm going to think about what I know about the number 28. Well, I know the number 28 is 20 plus 8, right? And I did break that apart up here. There's a 20 and there's an 8, okay? However, I also know that 20 itself is 10 plus 10. So I could break it apart even further. So let me go ahead and do this step by step. 28 is 20 plus 8. 20 is 10 plus 10. Okay, so 28, I could do 28 by doing 10 plus 10 plus 8. That would get me to 28, right? Well, now I can use these pieces to try and solve this problem. Okay, so I'm breaking apart 28 into 10 plus 10 plus 8. Okay, so that would be, let's do this, times 12. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, I got this 12 from up here, just in case you're confused about where that came from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 12 and I'm going to multiply it by this 10, because 10 times pretty much anything is going to be a pretty easy multiplication problem, because all we have to do is just move it over into the next place value column, as we were talking about in our last lesson. So let's do, I'm going to take this 10 here, and I'm going to do 10 times this 12. Okay, well, I know 10 times 12, that's 120, right? Now, if I did that because 10 or 1 times 12 is 12, another 0, moving it over, 120, okay? If I do that again, because there's another 10 here, okay, if I do that one more time, it's going to be the exact same thing. So it's the same problem. 10 times 12, another 120, okay? And then I have this 8, so I can do 8. I'm going to have lines going through all my problems here. 8 times 12, okay? Now 8 times 12, that's a fact I already know. I don't even have to worry about my place value there. I know 8 times 12 is 96, right? Okay, so I took 28 right here, and I broke it apart into 10, 10, and 8. I then multiplied each piece by 12. Instead of breaking it into 20 plus 8 times 12, I did 10 plus 10 plus 8 times 12. So I did each piece times 12, and I got my answers here, okay? And then I'm going to add them up. All right, so in my ones column, I have 6. In my tens column, I have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm gonna have to drop my 3 here and carry the 1 over to the hundreds column. And then I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, 336. All right, so I can do that where I just broke apart that 28 into 10 plus 10 plus 8. That's one way that you could approach this problem. Okay, now another way I could do this, let's see, there's other ways to break this apart. Okay, I could do, I see another way. So I'm going to try and close this off from my other work so they don't get mixed up. Okay, so that's one way. I'm going to label this. I'll say option. Option number 1. All right, now over here, I'm going to try a different way. So in that first one, I broke apart the 28 into 10 plus 10 plus 8, and I multiplied each piece times 12, right? Now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to break apart the 12. Okay, maybe that'll be easier for me. So I'm going to break apart the 12 into 10 plus 2, okay? Now, again, I did break apart the 10 plus 2 up here, but my difference is I'm not going to break apart the 28, okay? I'm just going to do the 12. I'm going to keep the 28 whole and see if maybe that will save me a step. Okay, so in this one, I'm going to take 28 and I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to bring this down. I'm trying to make it as clear for you guys as possible. Sorry, I'm kind of talking out loud. So I'll do my 10 times 28. Okay, and I know 10 times 28, that's not very hard to do. I can do 28 times 1 is just 28. And then this 0 here tells me I need to move it over one column. All right, so 280. And then I'm going to take my 2 and multiply it by 28. Okay, now this one I'm going to kind of break apart a little bit further. And I'm doing this kind of in my head, but, well, no, I'll break it out the best I can. I don't know 2 times 28 off the top of my head, but I do know 2 times 20, and I know 2 times 8. So 2 times 28 is 20 and 8. So I'm going to actually break this into 2 times 20 and 2 times 8. So I'm just breaking it apart a little bit further into facts that I can figure out pretty quickly. 2 times 20, well, that's 40. 2 times 8, that's 16. All right, that's not too bad. Now I'm going to add up to 80, 40, and 16. So I'm adding up those 3. So let's look at our ones column, 0, 0, and 6. Tens column, 8 plus 4 plus 1. 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 1 more is 13. Okay, and my hundreds, I have 2 and 1. 336. Okay, so again, I got 336, but I clustered it differently than how I did in my first option and how I did in the break apart model. Okay, I just looked for things that made sense to me. Okay, I looked for groupings that made sense to me. 12 is easy to break apart into 10 plus 2, and I can multiply 10 pretty easily, and I can multiply 2 pretty easily. I decided to break this apart a little bit more just to make it simpler. But in both of these options, I broke apart different numbers and still got the same answer. Still got 336 in both of these. Okay, so that's 2 options. Now, I'm going to show you another option that honestly I don't love to do, but I know some of my students in the past have loved this one and it just makes more sense to them. So if this one clicks with you, great, go for it. Okay, so this one's a little different. I'm going to do a new box. Actually, I won't close it in yet because I don't know how much space I'm going to need. So let's do this. The problem is 28 times 12, right? Well, I know some friends, some of my students in the past have really done well when you are multiplying with groups of 10. So what they'll do is they'll find which one of these is closer to a full 10, and then they will adjust their problem, okay? So for this example, if you are that kind of person, you're always looking for groups of 10 to multiply because they're easier for you. 28 is pretty close to being 30, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 28 plus 2. Now, because this is a multiplication problem, I'm not just adding 2 to my numbers here, and that doesn't mean I'm going to add 2 to my product. I'm adding 2 groups of 12, okay? 2 groups of 12 because this is multiplied. So what I'm really doing here is I'm turning this problem into 30 times 12. So what I did is I added 2 groups of 12, all right? But it's going to make my multiplication easier. So when I have 30 times 12, what I'm going to do first, let's see. Well, actually, I can do this pretty quickly. So 3 times 12, I already know that because I know my multiplication facts. So 2 times 12 would be 24. 3 times 12 would be 36. And then I just need to move it over one more tens place, or one place value, I'm sorry, place value. So my answer would be 360. Okay. However, this is not my final answer because you'll notice this is different than both of these answers up here. Why? Because at the beginning, I made this into a bigger number. I added 2 groups of 12 because I wanted it to be easier to multiply. So now to get to my final answer, I have to take those 2 groups of 12 away again, okay? Because this is not the answer to 28 times 12. This is the answer to 30 times 12, okay? However, if I just take away those 2 groups of 12, so I know over here, I'm gonna just make a note to myself. 2 groups of 12 is equal to 24. Okay, so that means I need to take away 24 because I added 24 here. 24, my 2 groups of 12 is 24. All right, so I need to take away the 2 groups of 12, which is 24. So I'm going to do 360 minus 24. That's my 2 groups. Okay, so now to do a little bit of subtraction here, but it's not going to be too bad. In fact, I'm going to do this in my head. I know 360 minus 20, well, that would be 340. All right, and then minus 4 more. 340, 339, 338, 337, 336. There we go. Okay, I ended up with the same answer I got in each of these, and all I did was I adjusted my first number to make it easier to multiply. Okay, now for some of you, this might not make sense. This might be really confusing and might just not be the way you solve these problems. I don't usually solve these problems this way either. This one just doesn't quite click for me. But if this one clicks for you, great. That's going to be a great way that you can simplify your breaking apart model to make it easier for you to understand. And you could do it probably faster and use more of your mental math instead of taking up a whole page of paper to solve one problem. Okay, so that one right there, let me box that in. That would be option number 3. All right, so basically what I did here is I took 28 times 12, and instead of using the typical break apart model, which is fine, if you just want to do that, that is okay. But what I did is I looked at 3 other ways to solve that problem by clustering numbers I understood. Okay, like in this first one, I broke apart 28. I took it into 10 plus 10 plus 8, did my multiplication, and added it up. In my second one, I broke apart the 12 into 10 and 2, did my multiplication, added them up. In my third one, I adjusted my first number to make it easier to multiply. I made it an even group of 10. Then I had to subtract what I added in the beginning to get my final answer. Okay, so whichever one of those works well for you, if any of those click well, great, use it. If they don't, use the traditional break apart model. Okay, we're trying to focus on ways to make your math more efficient, and everybody's mind works a little bit differently. Okay, so don't feel bad if you are trying to solve it one way and the person next to you is trying to solve it a different way. Our minds work differently. Okay, different types of models and problem solving works different for each of us. Okay, so now that we have kind of that introduction with one problem, let's try it with another one. Okay, this one, let's see, I'm going to do, let's do pretty much the same. We'll do 35 times 25. Okay, so 35 times 25. Now, when I am doing this problem, I'm going to look for a couple different ways to solve this, okay? First one, let's do, I'm going to break apart my 25. So I'm going to take 35 times, I know 25 is 20 plus 5, okay? And like I did on the front, I can even break apart that 20 even more into a 10 and a 10. Okay, so I'm going to do 35 times 10 plus 10 plus 5. All right, so what I'm going to do is take this. Oh, sorry, notebook's getting stuck. I'm going to take my 35, I'm going to multiply it by each piece, and then add up those pieces. All right, so let's start with 35 times 10, which would be 350. And then again, 35 times 10, 350. And then 35 times 5. Okay, now 35 times 5. That one I'm going to have to think about for a second. 35 times 5. How would I do that? Well, let's see. I could do, you know what? I'm just going to break this part a little bit further. Just to make it a little easier. And this is a 5, not a 6. Sorry if you can't tell that. All right, so I'm going to do 30 times 5, and then the 5 times 5. That's a little easier. 3 times 5 is 15. Place value change, 150. 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, then I have all my pieces here. I'm going to add these up. All right, in my ones column, 0, 0, 0. Oh, there's a 5. Great. Tens column, 5, 10, 15, 17. Carry my 1 over to my next column. 3, 6, 7, 8. All right, so I have 875 there. All right, now that was my first option. Okay, so my option number 1 for that problem was break apart the 25. Okay, now I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to break apart the 35. So 35, I know, is 30 plus 5 times 25. Okay, now let's see what I can do here. Let's start with 30 times 25. Okay, that might look a little daunting, 30 times 25, but you actually can probably solve this problem a lot faster than you expect, because you are very familiar, keep marking my page, sorry. You are very familiar with a type of coin that is worth 25 cents that you probably count up with pretty often. So 25, just like a quarter, when you add it up, right, you know where you're going. You know 1 quarter is 25 cents, 2 is 50 cents, 3 is 75 cents, 4 is $1 or 100 cents, right? So what you're going to do is take your 25 multiplied times 3. You already know if you have 3 quarters, that's going to be 75. And then you have a 10 here. So your place value is going to move over. So it's actually 750. Okay. It looks a little daunting, but you actually know this because of your understanding your money. Okay. So we did 30 times 25. Now I'm going to do the 5 times 25. All right. 5 times 25. Again, I'm going to use this 25 like I'm counting up by quarters. I can even do it on my hands if I want to. 25, 50, 75, 100, 125. That's 5 times. Doing 25, that would be 125. Okay, well that was faster than this one. Seemed like that one went a little quicker. All I have to do is add these up now. 5 plus 0 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. 875, 875. So this was a much faster way to do this, but turns out this one, I guess, was easier for me. There we go. But I got the same answer either way. So really, even though this one, option number 2, went faster for me, if this one makes more sense for you, it's fine, because look, you're going to end up with the same answer. Okay, you're just picking which cluster makes the most sense to you. Okay, now since we're pretty new with the clusters, I do want to double check my work, because even though I got it on 2 different options, I'm going to double check my work just to make sure that I'm doing this math correctly. So I'm going to draw out a really quick area model, because I always like to check my work just in case I was multiplying something wrong and didn't realize it, or going too fast. Happens to all of us, even us teachers, we do it all the time. Going too fast and we forget what we're doing and we just multiply or add something wrong. It's very easy to do. So I'm going to double check my work using my original problem, 35 times 25. So 35 times 25. All right. Well, 30 times 20. I know 3 times 2 is 6. And I've got 2 place values there. 0, 0. 20 times 5. That is 100. 30 times 5. Well, 3 times 5 is 15. And 1 place value change. And 5 times 5, 25. So I'm going to add those up. 600, 100, 150, and 25. Let's see if we got the same answer that we did in our first 2 options. In our ones place, we've got a 5. Tens place, 5 plus 2 is 7. And hundreds, 6, 7, 8. 875. 875, 875. Okay, so because I checked my work, I know that these are the correct answers. And now when I'm looking at new problems, I can think about, okay, what would be the easiest way for me to break this apart? For me, this one was the easiest. If this one's easiest for you, great. If area model is easiest for you, great. Whichever one makes sense to you, that helps you solve your problems more efficiently. Okay? All right. Let's do, we're going to keep going with this. But this time, we're going to use a word problem. All right. So this word problem says there are 37 teams with 28 students on each team. How many students are there? Okay, so basically they are asking how many total students are there if there's 37 groups and each group has 28 in it. Okay, so they're looking for, there's a group of 28, there's a group of 28, there's a group of 28, and on 37 times. Okay, now I'm not going to draw all those out because that's going to take me forever, and I don't want to waste my time drawing a whole bunch of circles when I have other tools that can help me solve this a lot faster. Okay, so basically, I'm going to try and solve this using clusters. So I'm going to try and look for numbers that I understand that are going to help me solve this. So let's set up the problem first. 37 times 28, because there's 37 groups with 28 in each. All right, so 37 times 28. Okay, first option I'm going to do, I think I'm going to break apart this 28. So let me move it down here. 37 times 28, break apart the 28 into 20 and 8. All right, let's see if I can do that well. 37 times 20. Let's do that first. 37 times 20. That seems a little difficult. I do not know what 37 times 20 is. I also don't know what 37 times 2 is right off the top of my head. That's going to take a little bit more multiplication. So you know what? I'm going to break this down again. I'm going to make the 20 into sorry, I'm thinking. I'm actually not going to break down the 20. I'm going to leave the 20. I'm going to break down my 37. I'm going to make my 37 into a 30 and a 7. Okay, so I'm going to do 30 times 20 and 7 times 20. Yeah, okay. So I'm working on this 20 right here. I have not done this 8, okay, because I broke apart the 28 into 20 and 8. Right now, I am just working on the 20. You don't see an 8 anywhere in my work. That means when I do this 20, I am not done yet because I still have to come back to this 8. One thing about clusters is you need to keep track of what you have already taken care of, what you have multiplied, because sometimes you're going to end up in a big problem and you're going to think, uh-oh, what have I already done? What do I still need to do to finish this problem? Okay, so that's why I like to circle whatever I'm currently working on or check it off when I finish it, so I can make sure that I'm keeping track of each part of my problem and I don't accidentally skip something, because that has happened to me before. I'm just going so fast, I'm like, yay, I'm done, great. No, I got to make sure I'm checking off every part of the problem or my answer's not going to be correct. Okay, so let's look at these two problems I just set up for myself by breaking apart the 37. I've got 30 times 20, okay? Well, 3 times 2, I know that one, that's 6. That's pretty easy. And then I have a 10 and another 10, so that means 2 place value shifts, 10 and another 10, 600. All right, next one, 7 times 20. 7 times 2 is 14. And 1 place value shift. So that's 140. Great. Okay, so I've got that part. I can go ahead and add that up. 740. Okay, so 37 times 20 is going to be 740. I'm not done yet, though. Okay, I still have to do this 8. So I'm going to check off the 20 because I did do that. I have to do the 8 now. All right, so I'm going to actually put the 8 over on this side. And I'm going to do 37 times 8. All right, now again, I do not know 37 times 8 off the top of my head. That's going to be a hard one to figure out. So I'm going to break the 37 apart into a 30 and a 7. So 30 times 8 and 7 times 8. That's much more manageable. 30 times 8. 3 times 8. I know that. Goodness gracious. I'm so sorry, friends. I just totally forgot. 24. My goodness. My mind is not working today. 3 times 8 is 24. And then I've got my extra 0 there for my place value. So that's going to be 240. My next one, 7 times 8, 56. Oops, I should have lined those up. I don't have any whiteout right here. Wait, yes I do. Give me 1 second. Never mind. We'll just move it over. Just scooting these over so I can line them up. There we go. Sorry, I wasn't thinking ahead. Okay, so I've got 240 and 56. Now I can add these up. 6 plus 0, 5 plus 4, and 2 plus nothing, 296. All right, so when I did 37 times 20, I got 740. When I did 37 times 8, I got 296. So my final answer means I need to add these up, okay? Because these are both sections of one problem. So I need to take my 740 plus 296. Figure out what I get. 6 plus 0 is 6. 9 plus 4 is 13. Carry that 1 into my hundreds place. 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 1 more is 10. Which means my final answer is going to be 1,036. Okay, 1,036 students. All right, now that was just one way. That was the way I chose to do it. If you see a different way of doing this problem, you can go ahead and go for it. Okay, just make sure as we're starting out to kind of understand this clustering and finding what number combinations make sense to you, please make sure to check your work using an area model so that you can make sure that you're doing your clusters correctly, all right? And that you're not missing anything when you're adding up these different parts. This was a pretty big one. I broke apart a lot of things in here, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything as I was going. So you know what? It actually be a pretty good idea to just double check my work. Okay, so 37 times 28. All right, 3 times 2, that's 6. And then I've got 2 zeros. 20 times 7, that's 140. 30 times 8, 240. And 7 times 8, 56. Look at that. I actually kind of did that in all of these parts because I found out these numbers are a little too big to just multiply straight across. I needed to break them apart more so I could see where they all are. So I ended up finding all of these. I have a 600, a 140, a 240, and a 56 because I ended up breaking apart all these pieces. So the area model is actually showing me what I did just in a more compressed form. All right, so if I take all those numbers together, when I add them up, it should be 1,036. Okay, ones place, 6. Tens place, I've got 4 plus 5, which is 9, plus 4 more is 13. Carry that 1. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1,036. All right, I'm just double checking my work to make sure I did not forget anything else when I was breaking these apart. All right, so as a reminder, friends, this lesson, these clusters, these are supposed to be a tool to help you, okay? A tool to help you do your multiplication facts more efficiently, right? As I've been saying through the whole video, if one of these options, I'll even look back at one of our other ones. If one of these options makes more sense to you than a different one, great, use it. If the break apart model makes more sense to you, use it. If the area model makes more sense to you, use it, okay? I'm just trying to show you there are more ways to solve the same problem based on how you are seeing the numbers, okay? Some are gonna click with you, some are not. That's okay. Not every single one has to make perfect sense to you, okay? So when you're working on your homework, pick whatever makes sense to you. If you're familiar with area model, do it, okay? If you want to challenge yourself and try one of these other options, go for it, but please check your work until you get more comfortable with recognizing these different types of clusters. Please check your work. All right, if you have any questions about this, if I can take you through any of the problems, let me know. I'd be happy to help. All right, I will see you all at our next live meeting.